Morning, and usually I start with hockey videos, and financially this is a baffling decision I've made to start with an entertainment news video, but there's just some stuff going on in the sports world that's not hockey related that I'm like, hey, something's going on. So I want to talk about that. I'll use the entertainment guy and discuss some other entertainment items as well. You'll notice that this is a magnet that I made a couple weeks ago that I've been meaning to use, and I have absolutely no reason to use it. I don't even have a fun reason to use it on the hockey channel, so I just got it on the board for this video because why not? I don't have entertainment magnets. I don't think I'll have entertainment magnets. Guess I could make entertainment magnets. I could make one for Major League Baseball. They're considering realignment. So if you're a Major League Baseball fan and you like divisions the way they are, if you get a 2020 season, it's highly likely that the divisions will be greatly realigned. In that you'll have the Cactus and Grapefruit League. I don't know if that's what you call it, the Cactus Conference, the Grapefruit Conference, just for this year. I don't know. I don't think they know either. But the idea is simple that they would play in Florida and Arizona. It may just be two cities, and they would play it like Grapefruit League, but no fans in the stadiums. That's the idea, and just try to belt out some kind of an abbreviated season. The sports right now, you could look at bankruptcy if leagues stay closed. And I think that and here's the thing, we have people who are saying everything's going to stay closed down for 18 months. It can't, because we're all homeless. And so it really can't. But at the other time, at the other side, which is just open everything up, that's not realistic either. So we're going to find some kind of a balance coming out of this, and at some point, professional sports are going to have exemptions. So we're going to have, okay, you can't have, more than 10 people in a place. You can't be this close together. Sports are going to have exemptions. That's going to be the way. That's the way that money works. Billionaires are going to make sure there's certain exemptions for sports. And advertisers are going to want certain exemptions for sports because advertisers like to make money and the sports like to make money off the advertisers. And there's an economic ecosystem that will spend money to make sure that it makes some money. So Major League Baseball, if there's a way to find around this, that what also helps them is when we look at hockey as a for instance, hockey has a lot of players that are in Europe. And of course, flying out of Europe into North America is virtually impossible right now. So, although they can buy their way out of that too, again, it can be declared, all right, we need this for our business, and you can apply for something through the government. The government goes, fine, yeah, all right, they're hockey players, fine, whatever. So again, there are ways around, and there are definitely situations that are just emerging, and everything's going to evolve right before our eyes. We really don't know. So yeah, Major League Baseball might have an easier time because most of these players are American. And if you say, well, a lot of them are Puerto Rican, that's also America. So, United States, anyways. Canada's technically part of America because you're North America and all that. But, sure, America. So yeah, we'll see what they do, and if other leagues follow suit. One league is going to be first. One league is going to either take the field, in this case, take the ice in NHL's case, or do whatever they're going to do, and they're going to say, hey, we figured something out, and every other fan base is going to go, well, I don't normally watch that sport, but since it's the only thing on, and then they get 100% of the audience. And that's where advertisers are like, hey, that's an awesome idea. I like the 100% of an audience thing. Billie Eilish, I'm going to talk about this here. I'm a fan of Billie Eilish, and I find myself feeling somewhat protective of her because she's a good kid. She is. And maybe being in my 40s and having kids that are older than her, look, there's a lot of expectations being put on her that I think are ridiculous. She's 18. Like, she's a kid. So she posts, and she had, there was an interview with her that they were talking about all this again, and it all gets dragged up again. There was a post she put up on Instagram a couple months back, I believe it was, where she went to Hawaii. And while you're in Hawaii, you do water things. So when she did water things, she was wearing a bathing suit. And so there's pictures of her in a bikini, and you don't ever see much of her, but it's enough that people call her names, and oh, how dare you, and oh, you're supposed to be different, and oh, now that you're 18, now you're this and that. And all, when I'm reading all this, all I could think was, When I was a kid in middle school, we would go to the water slides. Girls wore bikinis and wore swimsuits, and nobody shamed them for that. I think we're in this time where it's really bizarre that if it was, say, the Jonas Brothers, you see people going, "You male whores." What? So the expectation on women is really really weird. And she's 18. She's a kid, and I know people are gonna say, "Oh, that's an adult." Um, I've got kids in their 20s. They're still kids to me, and they're still learning, and they're still making mistakes along the way. And you love them for it, but they're going to make mistakes along the way. And yeah, Billie Eilish has a lot of money and she's famous. She's still a kid. She's still going to make mistakes along the way. And honestly, I don't see how she's made any. I remember a few months ago, everybody was freaking out because she didn't know any of the members of Van Halen. Who cares? Who cares that she doesn't know members of Van Halen? It's not a big deal. It really isn't. Because there are a lot of people my age who may not know members of Van Halen. They just think, they're just named out that. Oh, there's members of Van Halen that are named Van Halen. Yeah, people may not know that. It really doesn't matter, but it's part of what happens now, and in society, this has always been kind of the way. Remember that Dirty Laundry song from Don Henley? Kick them when they're up, kick them when they're down, kick them when they're sick, kick them all around. And this is kind of how society has continued to be. And now that we have social media and everything's immediate and everybody has access to it, it just seems like that amplifies it. So you build them up and then you tear them down. So Billie Eilish writes some pretty good music. I have both of her CDs. I enjoy them both immensely. I think she has a fantastic voice. I think she's very creative. And then people say, well, her brother wrote most of it. Yes, she wrote with her brother. Yes, she's still more talented than a lot of other people who have people out there writing music for them, and they use the auto tune to make sure that they sound good. And, again, it's just as soon as somebody's a big deal, people are like, is this over yet? Is this over yet? It's insane. I will say this from a musical taste, they've never been defined by what anybody else thought. Never happened. I remember before Def Leppard was a big deal, I loved Def Leppard. Then Def Leppard, everybody was wearing their shirts and their jeans and all that, and I was like, oh, all right, ripped jeans are in, okay, all right, fine, okay, cool. I've been doing that for a while. People said I looked like I was homeless, but all right. And then, a couple years later, I'm still wearing Def Leppard shirts, and everybody's like, that's so yesterday. What are you wearing that for, Def Leppard? Yeah, go off and enjoy CNC Music Factory, you easily led dolts. Anyhow, and it still continues to this day. And again, it just feels like it's amplified and it's accelerated. You could have 2 or 3 years of a band being in and being cool, and now it's like 6 months later. All right, what's next? All right, maybe even 6 minutes. Oh, yeah, that song was fun the first time I heard it, but now it's the second time, and I think I've matured a lot in the last 6 minutes since the first time I heard this. Give me a break. All right, XFL. If you went out and bought a bunch of XFL gear and got excited about it, I'm sorry. The XFL is a cursed organization. They lasted 1 year the first time, and it looks like they are the first league to officially fall victim to what's going on out there. As Wrestle Talk calls it, the Steve Corino, and it appears that's what's happening. They've suspended operations and laid everybody off. Everybody's out of work. So when you suspend operations, that means, and we might come back. I don't know, maybe. And honestly, the XFL was a tremendous risk as it was. You already have Vince McMahon running WWE, and we can all debate about how well he's doing that. And then you throw in the XFL, a whole league, of sports league too, and there's all these rules and regulations around that, and it's a lot, and it's a lot of money to have both going. And the idea that both will be really profitable, it gets dodgy pretty darn quick. Their ratings were good considering it was a startup league. Their attendance seemed to be good as well. They did well in Seattle, not as well in LA, but LA fans don't show up for things unless you're winning a championship. LA fans don't show up in general. I know there's some really really good sports fans in LA, but my God, that there are no front runner fans worse than Los Angeles. There really aren't. Where, they must be in first, they're full. And it doesn't matter the sport, it would seem. So yeah, the XFL has officially suspended operations, and it makes sense. We don't know when this is going to be done. We don't know what the world's going to look like when it's done. Um, I find it bizarre that we are deferring all knowledge off to Bill Gates, and I get it. I do. But at the same time, did he ever create a stable version of Windows? Not really. So, yeah, there's a part of me saying, it's great and all, but this seems to be a little more complicated than Windows, and you never did fix it. And what you never that no this so. Anyways, that's why I don't talk about them in videos. Because yeah, it's great to be philanthropical and all that stuff, and help people out and all of that. But at this point in time, if you give too much power to any one person, there's some inherent danger. And I'm not getting into all the other theories. No, stop typing theories. Knock it off. I think in this time that we need to just sort of chill. It's what we've been told to do. Just chill. And I'll let everybody do what they're gonna do, and then we'll all talk about it later when we're allowed. When we can all get together and talk about it. Although we can virtually get together, just not on Zoom. Zoom has realized there's some security issues because, and I know this isn't on the board, but I want to throw this in here. They have hired a former Facebook, somebody that was in charge of their security, to come in and work on Zoom security, because now we're starting to see certain entities, and I know that this has happened with various companies where they've said we are not allowing Zoom on company computers due to security. So Zoom's going, maybe. And here's the thing: if they bring in people to work on all this, you end up with a paid version, and probably leaning towards the paid version, so you have that increased security. Maybe they work something out with the one of the antivirus companies. There's no 100% secure thing online, but I am sure that it is in Zoom's best interest, while they make record profits, that they figure this out before they experience what sometimes happens in the tech business, which is you're only worth, what time is it? It can change very, very quickly. So, yeah, all that said, WWE made a move today as well. They released the Revival. So whether it's that the Revival wanted out, or it's the WWE just looking at things and going, yeah, we're shut down for a while. I don't know. I don't know when we're going to open. We need to start cutting some costs. There'd been rumors there'd be cost cuttings with WWE, that there'd be wrestlers getting released. And so the Revival are the first ones to go. Thank God. Free the Revival has been a trend on social media for, I think, a year. Like, it has to be a year. They don't fit the mold. They don't fit the WWE mold. And the guys who don't fit the WWE mold are pretty much going to AEW. And the Revival are perfect for AEW. A match between them and the Best Friends, or Lucha Bros, or any big tag team there. I would love to see them against Kenny Omega and Hangman Page. I think there's a lot there. So I would be very surprised if the Revival don't go to AEW. And it's going to get interesting, because as we progress through the new, and it's not really a wrestling war, it's just you got guys on one side, guys on the other, and it is different, and it feels like the guys that don't fit the WWE mold are going there, and it's going to create a very unique product. And I think we're already seeing that, where AEW is a unique product. And I think it should create a situation where it'll probably polarize fans more, where if you're a WWE fan and you don't like that AEW's threatening WWE, or you just don't see them as being competition, you can use that and say, well, the Revival weren't good enough for WWE and they're boring as milquetoast, so yeah, of course they go to AEW. But if you're an AEW fan, you can say, hey, WWE is doing what WCW did in the late 90s, and they're letting go of guys that they probably shouldn't. Guys that maybe they don't see that potential, but we as fans do, and going to another company, they'll have a chance to realize that. And that happened with a lot of guys with WCW. The WCW said, this is our main event scene. And so when a mid-carder would come up and go, well, I can't break through that, so I'm going to go, they go, all right, see you later. Gotcha. And then they go to WWE and become Eddie Guerrero, right? Eddie Guerrero was like the biggest mistake WCW made. He should have been in the main event picture, but again, he was likely seen as too small. And for Bischoff, he likely looked at Guerrero and said, that guy can't draw. Guerrero doesn't draw a dime. He doesn't draw anything. Hogan's my draw. So right now we're looking at WWE and going, all right, well, you got Brock Lesnar as your draw. I mean, I know he dropped the title to Drew and everything, but I've seen too many cases where Brock just wins it back, just takes it back. All right, he's back. He takes the title back. He doesn't need the title, but he just gets it. Goldberg most recently just got the title because he didn't want to lose. And this is the kind of stuff that was going on in WCW towards the end, where you would see the old veteran come in and just squash the new guy. And so, as a fan, you're kind of left going, well, why should I care about the new guy then? Clearly, the old guys are superior. AJ Styles is younger than me, not by a lot, but he's younger than me, and yet he's seen as a veteran in the locker room, but he's losing to Undertaker. And again, there's a danger there of, well, clearly the old guard is much better than the new guys. And that's the trick. Because back in the 80s when I started watching wrestling, and you would see Hogan and all of this new crew that was taking over, when they brought a veteran back, or they brought a veteran in, they didn't get pushed as if they were better than the new guys. For instance, when Harley Race went into WWE, he was, he was the king. I know they made him the king, Harley Race and all that, but he wasn't really a threat for the world title. I never got that feeling. And yet Harley Race was one of the best wrestlers that ever lived. So by that standard now, Harley Race would come in, he'd squash somebody who was champion, whether it was Seth Rollins or whoever, he'd take the title. And back then it would have been ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I do think there's a danger of that you're taking your older wrestlers and it diminishes what the younger guys are doing. Because you're saying, okay, this guy in his and I've also said, like with any sport, just imagine just some guy coming out of retirement in baseball in his, like, he's 56, he's out of retirement, and he hits 4 home runs in a game. And you'd be like, wow, I guess he's really good and these guys are really bad. I don't know. Anyways, I just think if you want it to be taken as somewhat serious and you want people to view it as being a legit thing, then, build up your young stars. There's nothing wrong with building up your young stars. Now, 2 TV news items that I find upsetting. Big Brother 2020 is a maybe. That's this summer. And I get it. I do. Of course, Big Brother in Canada got shut down because of the current issues going on in the world around us. So I could understand if Big Brother 2020 doesn't happen, but it still sucks, right? Because Big Brother might be one of those things that there's an escape and it's gone. And then Love Island is also a maybe. And Love Island, yeah. As much as people in Big Brother are in close quarters, people in Love Island are in close quarters too. But man, I really enjoyed that show last summer to the point where Yvonne and I were talking about it on this channel. And when we went to Vegas last summer, the finale was while we were in Vegas, so we had to stay in our room and watch the finale. So, we're on the Vegas Strip, and, it's this great, exciting place. And we're still like, we got to watch the Love Island finale. We got to see who ends up with who. We got to see who wins. So it'd be a shame if that was gone. Because, again, I don't know what networks are going to be doing by this summer. A lot of shows are, of course, not producing right now. And, again, I think we'll see things change in the next few weeks. The only advice that I would give, and of course I'm no professional or anything, is just chill, relax. They'll figure something out over the next few weeks where things won't be normal for a long time, but there'll be some sense of things being a little better, I would think, soon. But we'll see. This is still an unfolding situation to the point where I start the day with an entertainment guy video. It doesn't happen, but here we are. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is it feasible for Major League Baseball to have perhaps 2 cities, maybe 4? This Cactus and Grapefruit League setup that they have for their training camp and for spring training, it works really well. And honestly, it could work very, very well if they're saying, all right, we're not going to have fans in the seats. And that is something that I think people have misinterpreted, because I've heard we won't see sports gatherings for 12 to 18 months. That doesn't mean sports. It means gatherings with everybody in the seats. And the other thing I've seen as well, they could put people in the seats but have spaces in between So you're following the 6 foot guidelines. The problem is you have rows behind you, so you're within 6 feet of the people behind you, and being able to stagger it all out and having any kind of it's just and then just imagine being an usher in that situation. So ushers would see people would crowd together. That's just the way it works. You're going to have, especially if you have alcohol on the premises. And then how do lineups work? Like lines for the bathroom, you're gonna have to have 6 feet between people. A line for the beer and for the food. It would be a logistical nightmare. And for buildings, they would be spending money on ushers and not making that back, because if you're gonna have, say, 500-600 people in attendance, or 2,000 spread out throughout the arena, it's yeah, the logistics just get it becomes a nightmare. And do you have people like spacing people out as they come in? Do you have there's usually police on hand at Vancouver games, so that they force it? It gets really tricky. But for players and for sports itself, either we would see some kind of a return to a sporting event taking place, or we're going to see leagues go under. That's the way it's going to work. So I do think that something will get worked out, and there'll be some kind of a way to keep things as safe as humanly possible. And again, for some of us, it's just an escape. And it's not to diminish anything that's going on. It's just nice to have something to watch on TV. And it's kind of nice to have that 2 or 3 hours where you can just take a break and watch a sport and go, hey, stuff's happening. That's why I'm so excited about the NFL draft, because stuff's going to be happening. Even though we don't know how that's going to turn out, and that could be disaster as well. But I'm doing a live stream on this channel for that. So thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Now I got a bunch of hockey stuff to do for the rest of today. I've definitely backed myself up on that. But in this case, it was worth it, because there's some stuff going on in the rest of the world that I needed to discuss first. Thank you guys so much for everything. We'll talk to you again soon.